Hi, Jenny here. On this rainy, dreary spring day, I thought I would make some comforting food. So today we are going to make some sweet potato fries and hopefully make them crispy. So let's get started. For this recipe, we are going to need 1 to 2 sweet potatoes, a tablespoon of cornstarch, some olive oil or a sprayer, and some sea salt. Go ahead and preheat your oven to 400 degrees, so that will be all ready to go by the time we get this done. First you want to peel your sweet potato. Depending on the size of your sweet potato and how many fries you think you're going to want to do, you can decide on how many sweet potatoes you want. So this sweet potato is a really huge honking one. So I figured I would just go with 1 today. We'll see how this goes. And if they're so delicious, I want more. I do have another sweet potato that I could use. When we are cooking these, we are also going to want them to be about 1 inch apart on the pan, because that also should help keep them a little bit more crispy. So that also will depend on how big your potato is, will depend on how many pans you're going to fill, if you'll end up with 1 or 2. So that'll also take some time to cook. Alright, let's clean this up. Next, we will cut up our potato into fry-sized pieces. So, I forgot to sharpen my knife beforehand. Hopefully you have a really sharp knife, because sweet potatoes are very thick and so sometimes hard to cut. So we'll cut them in half, cut them in half again. And then cut these into about 1/4 inch size pieces. And yes, the small pieces are just as tasty as the big ones. So those are okay too. And then we'll go ahead and cut these again, so that you'll end up with some fried type size pieces. Let's go that way. You might have one side flatter than the other, makes it a little bit easier to cut. I do have a recipe on my channel. I have made these before in the air fryer. Those turned out pretty tasty. I love getting sweet potato fries in the restaurant. It's one of my favorite things. If that's a choice on the menu, that is usually what I get. And at the restaurant, they're not usually crispy either. They're more soft, but they're still very tasty. So I've tried buying the bags in the freezer section of the sweet potato fries. I've made those before, and they're okay. They're still not as good as the restaurant. It's like, what is the restaurant doing that gives it that extra flavor? So the ones I made before too on the, like I said, with the air fryer, I thought they were very tasty. But I've had some sweet potatoes here that I thought, all right, which way am I going to cook them? Because I'm cutting. I do enjoy just a, like a baked potato type of sweet potato. I've made those. And that's been very delicious. Just putting some butter on there. I also had a recipe for some roasted sweet potatoes. I was just more in the mood for fries though today. So I figured we will try this recipe. Found a couple different recipes of showing how to make them crispy. One of them was frying in oil, and I thought, I don't want to try that. And a couple obviously were made in the, so again, making them in the air fryer or making them in the oven. So I thought, well, this time I will try the oven. We'll see if we can make these crispy. Either way, they're going to be very tasty. So, looks like even with this amount of fries that I'm going to need a couple baking sheets if I'm going to try to have them that inch apart. That's supposed to help them cook through. So I will not be able to get this done in one pan full. That's okay. Alright, once your pieces are all cut up, I would say spread them out as much on a single layer as you can. Could have used a bigger cutting board for this. And this is where the cornstarch comes in. So from what I've seen, because sweet potatoes are more sweet, they are also less starchy. And so that's part of why you don't get a lot of the crunch. That's why they're a little bit more soggy. So we're going to use about a tablespoon or so of cornstarch, and that's going to add some of that starch back in. So we're just going to use a sifter so we can spread it out a little bit more evenly. And we'll coat the fries. You can do this in a bowl if you don't want to use your hands. Use 2 spoons. Just flip them all over. You can always go back to, gosh, back in my 20s. I used to watch Elton Brown on the Food Network. And one of his sayings was that God gave us the best 2 tools there are, our hands. He liked to use his hands a lot in whatever he was doing, mixing things up and whatnot. But anyways, so we'd mix it all up, try to turn them over. Get a little more, oh, there's my oven's ready, or almost ready. A little more cornstarch on. And dun, will that stay? Woo! We'll mix them up a little bit more. Just kind of rub it in, coat it on there. And then comes the oil part. You usually have that in most fry type recipes somehow or other. Like I said, whether you cook them in the oil or when you're doing any type of like a roasted vegetable or cooking one, you can drizzle some olive oil on here if you want to do that. And again, try to make sure that they all get well coated. Otherwise, if you have a sprayer with some type of oil on there, some non-stick spray, you can use that and spray to make sure again that they all get kind of an even coating. And we'll mix them up again. And we'll do that one more time. Should also help the cornstarch stick on there a little bit better, even though sweet potatoes are a little wet. There's another theory I saw out there where you can soak the sweet potatoes overnight or for an hour or so. You can soak them. I think that's supposed to help make them crisper also. There's a little bit more water in there, but from what I've seen from people that have tried that, it hasn't turned out really that much different than not soaking. So I figure, well, we'll just try this way today. So again, get these all mixed up. And then we'll get our baking pan. For your baking pan, you can layer it with a piece of parchment paper if you'd like. You don't have to, but that would help with these not to stick. So we're going to put these down in one layer. Like I said, leaving about an inch-ish or so between each one. We'll fit as many as we can on one pan. And then we will bake these. Bake them for 8 minutes. Take them out, flip them over. Bake them for another 8. See how they're doing. We could flip them over again, or I'll cook them for maybe another 1 or 2, depending on like how crispy they're looking. Once you have your sweet potatoes all aligned on your pan, you can go ahead and sprinkle them with some salt. If you were going to use any extra seasonings, you could have mixed it all up when you had them all together. Again, either on your cutting board, put them in a bowl. But we're going to go ahead, sprinkle them with salt, and then when we turn them over, after 8 minutes of baking, we will sprinkle them with a little bit more salt. So now that we're ready, we will bake them in that 400-degree oven for 8 minutes. 8 minutes is up. We'll go ahead and flip these over. Oops. Turn that off. I'm ready. Guess I should have paid attention when I was laying these down, made sure I had them on the longer side. Some of these I have on the short side. I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle it with a little bit more salt. Go ahead and pop them back in the oven for another 8 minutes. Alrighty, well, let's check these out again. And we're cooked. Let's see. I think I'm going to go for like 2 more minutes. Try to crisp them up a little bit more. They do seem completely cooked. They'd be fine to eat. But I'll try to crisp them up. And then, while I'm at it, as long as I have 1 more batch worth of sweet potato fries to do, I'm out of frame. I figured I'm going to go ahead and try the air fryer with the other half of the potatoes that I have. And let's see how they compare. So let me first get these back in the oven. Turn it off. Okay. Okay, make sure that you have your little tray on the bottom of your air fryer. We'll go ahead and heat this up. So 380 degrees. Ooh. All right, I guess it's gonna be 390. Mine needs to heat up for 3 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and do that. While this is heating up, I'm going to spray my sweet potato fries one more time with the oil and put a little bit of salt on them. Your air fryer is preheated. Go ahead and lay your sweet potato fries on the tray. Try to get them in as much as a single layer as possible. How many I have here? I'm just gonna make them fit. We're going to go ahead and cook them for 6 minutes. Again at that 380-ish degrees. We'll shake them and cook them for another 6. Six minutes is up. We'll go ahead, look like they're getting cooked. Shake them up. And cook them. I'm going to go 5 just because I'm going to go down in temperature too. They look like they are getting a little bit cooked there, so we'll go for 5 more. 5 minutes is up. I did kind of check them in between just to make sure that they weren't going to burn. These were also a little bit more of the smaller pieces. I cooked the bigger pieces in the oven. So they do have a lot more darker spots on them. They're not mushing up as I'm taking them out of here. But as far as being crisp, we'll see. We'll let these cool off for a little bit. And then we'll compare these to the other ones and see what we think. These are how the ones look that are out of the oven. They've been cooling for a little bit, so they are ready to taste. These sweet potato fries are finished. So if you can kind of see from here, I'm bring them a little closer in the picture. These are the ones that were done in the oven, and these are the ones that were done in the air fryer. So granted, the ones in the air fryer were the smaller pieces, but interesting that they got more of the dark brown coating on them. It almost looks like it has skin on them, but they don't. So they both feel drier. These feel a little bit more pliable. They're, you know, they're not bending per se. They're not super crisp. Let's see if I get a bigger one of these. These are stiffer. But let's see if we compare taste. I guess we'll start with one of the oven ones. Not crunchy. Tastes like sweet potato. Have that salt on there, so that's a good taste. And that's the only seasoning that I put on there. As I mentioned before, you can put other seasonings on there. Sometimes people like paprika or Italian seasoning or pepper or any other stuff. All right, let's see about these. Again, not crunchy. I've seen other people do the videos and they bite in and it's actually crunchy. So I don't know if these either need a little bit more oil. I feel these have more of a potential to be a little bit crunchier. They're a little bit drier, even as dry on the tongue. I suppose I did add probably a little bit more salt to these, but I only added salt to one side. sweet potato. I actually prefer the ones made in the oven. Again, I don't know if they're just a little bit more moist. Again, neither of them are crunchy. A little disappointing. I was hoping. But either way, they are tasty. So, and they take about the same amount of time because I did, well, let's see, actually, no, I think these took 12 minutes-ish. And these I did 9 and 9, 18, or another 2, 20, I guess. These were about 20 and these were about 12. But these did not overcook or anything. I like them. So, there you have it. Little comparison, at least the way I made them this time. If I try these again and stuff, I will add little notes to this. Although it's probably not going to happen by the time I edit this and put it up. In the future. Future me. In any case, let me know if you like sweet potatoes. Do you like to order them when you're at a restaurant? Do you like to make them at home? Do you make them yourself? Do you buy the frozen kind? Like I said, I've bought the frozen kind before. And they're tasty. They're good. But still, restaurant is better. As for these, like these are pretty well comparison to the restaurant ones. I like these. But ultimately, I think, again, I'm more of a baked potato type of a sweet potato person. I prefer that. Although, I'm trying to think if I've tried roasted. I've tried roasted regular potatoes and red potatoes. I have not tried roasting sweet potatoes yet, so that's in my future. In any case, I'm going to go enjoy some more of my snack. You guys, keep it positive. Go make it a great day. Bye-bye. That's tasty.